There is a place on this earth where the cold doesn't just surround you, it enters you. Yakutia, the coldest inhabited region on the planet. Temperatures here fall below minus 90 degrees. And in this silence, one woman lives alone. Her name is Anya. She has lived here for longer than most people would survive. That night, the wind began to change. A storm was coming, the kind that buries everything. Anya added the last dry log to the fire. She would not open that door again tonight. But then a sound. Not the wind, not the wood settling. Something alive. A cry. Small. Desperate. Anya stood slowly. Every instinct told her not to open that door. But that sound, she had heard it before, years ago, from something young and afraid. She lifted the latch. The cold hit her like a wall. And there, on the frozen step, barely visible through the snow, a tiger cub, alone, shaking. Its mother was nowhere. The tracks behind it had already been erased by the wind. Anya didn't think. She bent down and picked it up. She stepped back inside and closed the door on the coldest night of the year. She laid the cub on the floor beside the stove. It didn't move. Its fur was soaked. Ice had formed between its paws. Anya pulled a dry cloth from the shelf and began to rub the cub's body, slowly, the way you would handle something already half gone. The fire crackled. Outside, the storm screamed. She heated water in a tin pot and dipped the cloth into it. Warm, not hot. She knew the difference mattered. She pressed the warm cloth against the cub's chest and waited. Minutes passed, then a breath, deeper than before. Anya exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her own. She had not cared for anything living in 7 years. Not since Dmitri. Morning came the way it always does in Yakutia without the sun. Anya woke on the floor. She had slept beside the stove, beside the cub, all night. The fire was almost out. That was dangerous. She moved carefully, not wanting to wake it. Some habits of gentleness never leave you. The woodpile outside was buried. She would have to dig. She pulled on her coat, her valenki, her mittens, every layer a ritual. She looked back once at the cub before opening the door. Outside, the world was glass. Her breath froze the moment it left her lips, tiny crystals falling like dust. She found the shovel by memory. Even the handle was frozen solid. She dug, one shovel at a time. There was no other way. 40 minutes to uncover 6 logs. That was the math of this life. She carried the wood inside. The cub was awake. It watched her. Not with fear, with something else. She fed the stove first. Always the fire first. Everything else second. Then she boiled water and poured it, cooled, into a shallow bowl. She set the bowl on the floor and waited. It took 3 minutes. Then the cub stood on unsteady legs and moved toward the water. It drank. And Anya watched a part of herself she thought was gone come back. By midday, the cub had moved to the warmest spot in the cabin directly against the stove wall. Anya ate standing up, as she always did. Dried fish and black bread. She had not spoken to another living thing in 19 days. She counted. She always counted. That evening she spoke. Just one word. Stay. The cub tilted its head, as if it understood. Night fell like a curtain. Minus 96 outside. Minus nothing inside. She dragged the cot closer to the stove that night. The cub watched from the floor. She slept. And sometime in the dark, the cub climbed up beside her. When she woke, there was weight on her chest. Small, warm, breathing. She didn't move. She let it sleep. She had nowhere else to be. And for the first time in 7 years, Anya did not count the days. 3 days passed. The cub grew stronger. Anya grew lighter. She fed it strips of dried fish. The cub ate from her hand. It played. Not much, but enough. A dried herb stalk became a toy. Anya laughed. She caught herself surprised by the sound of her own voice. But the firewood was running low. She could see the back wall of the stack now. Another storm was building. She could feel it in the walls. She had to get more wood. Now. Before the wind made it impossible.
Come on,
She
little
opened
one.
the door and the
The
cold
cold is
came for her
rising.
again. But this time the cub followed. She turned. No. She pointed inside. The cub sat at the threshold. It did not go back. She knelt down, looked it in the eye, gently pushed it back inside, closed the door. She walked into the storm alone. The wind took her breath before she could give it. The woodpile was 200 steps from the cabin. In this wind, it felt like 1,000. She found the pile by feel. Her hands dug through snow until they hit solid wood. She pulled 4 logs free, carried them against her body like children. She made it back, barely. Her hands had stopped feeling anything at all.
You are cold
She
too,
kicked the
little
door
one.
shut with her
I was
boot,
not expecting
sat on the
you.
floor, couldn't move. The cub licked her hand. Its tongue was warm. She felt that. She soaked her hands in warm water and waited for the pain. When it came, she was grateful. The cub sat beside her through all of it,
Been a long day.
not playing, not sleeping, just present. That night, she spoke more than she had in months. She told the cub about Dmitri, how he built this cabin with his hands, how he laughed at the cold like it was a joke only he understood, how he died out there, in the snow, alone, because she was too far away to hear him call. The cub pushed its head under her chin. She let it stay. Days blurred. 5, 6. The cub
made
grew
that your
bolder.
own?
It had claimed the cot. Anya slept in the chair now. She didn't mind. She began to ration the dried fish differently. More for it, less for her. On the 7th morning, the sun appeared. Just for a moment, a crack of gold on the horizon. Anya opened the door to look. The cub stood beside her. They watched together. Then she saw them, in the snow. Tracks, large, fresh. Tiger tracks, an adult. It had circled the cabin in the night. The cub knew. She could see it in the way its body changed alert, electric, pulled toward the forest. Anya pulled the cub back inside, closed the door, stood with her back against it. She told herself it was for the cub's safety, but she knew what it was really about. That day, the cub would not leave the window. It made a sound she had not heard before, low, from deep in its chest. Not a cry, a call. Anya sat in her chair and pretended not to hear it. 3 more days. The tracks appeared every morning, always circling, always fresh. And then, on the 4th morning, she saw her, the mother. She had survived the storm. She had been searching. Anya's hand gripped the doorframe. She understood. The tiger did not approach. She did not need to. Her presence was the message. Then the tiger turned and walked back into the trees, slowly, without urgency.
Time runs
Anya
short,
closed the
little
door,
one.
leaned against it.
We must
Her heart
be
was
ready.
loud in the silence. She knew what this meant. Wild things don't belong to us. But not tonight. Tonight, she would keep the door closed. One more night. She fed it the last of the dried fish. All of it. Kept nothing for herself. She spoke to it all night. Told it things she had never told anyone. How she was afraid of dying alone. How she had forgotten what warmth felt like. How this small thing had reminded her that she was still here. She fell asleep holding it, knowing that tomorrow she would have to open the door. Dawn. The light was sharper than usual, as if the world was paying attention. The mother was there again, closer now, at the edge of the clearing. Anya saw her through the window. She stood very still. Then she nodded, to no one, to herself. She knelt beside the cub. It was awake, looking at her with those pale blue eyes. She placed her hand on its head, felt the skull beneath the fur, the warmth, the life. She stood, walked to the door. Her hand found the latch. She opened it. The cold came again, but this time it felt different. It felt like a passage. The cub came to the doorway. It stood on the threshold, half inside, half out. Anya whispered, "Go." The cub looked at her one last time. Then it stepped into the snow and walked toward the trees. She watched the cub cross the snow. Each step took it further from her. Each step was correct. The mother did not move. She waited, patient as stone. The cub reached her. It stopped, looked up at the enormous shape above it. They touched noses. A breath passed between them. Something was decided. Anya saw it from the doorway. 200 meters of snow between them. But she saw everything. The mother turned. The cub followed. They walked into the forest together. Anya did not call out. She did not move. She just watched. The last flash of orange between the trees. And then, white. Only white. She closed the door. The sound of the latch was the loudest thing she had ever heard. The cabin was the same, but everything in it had changed. She sat in the chair, the one she'd given up so the cub could have the cot. She did not cry. She had given that to the night before. Hours passed. She did not move. The fire asked for wood. She did not answer. The frost crept back onto the window. It had been waiting. The blanket lost the shape of the cub's body. The wool relaxed, as if it, too, was letting go. Anya looked at the photograph on the wall. Dmitri's smile. She had survived losing him. She would survive this. She stood, fed the fire. One log, then another. The cold would not win. Not today. She boiled water, drank it slowly, hot and bitter from the old leaves at the bottom of the jar. Night came, the longest she could remember. She lay on the cot. It was too big now, too empty. She thought about every moment. The wet fur, the first drink, the sound of it playing, the head under her chin. She pressed her hand to the blanket beside her. It was cold. The warmth had already gone. Sometime in the darkest hour she slept. The body insists, even when the heart resists. She dreamed. In the dream, the cabin was full. Dmitri sat by the fire. The cub slept at his feet, and everything was warm. She woke to gray light. The dream broke apart like ice on water. The fire was out. For the first time in years, she had let it die. She could see her own breath inside the cabin. That hadn't happened since before the cub. She looked at the 3 remaining logs. 3 logs, maybe 8 hours of warmth. She could stay here, wait for the cold, let it take her. It would be easy. It would be quiet. But then she looked at the blanket, the cub's blanket, and she heard its voice in her memory. It had survived the storm to find her door. It had chosen her. She would not dishonor that by giving up. She took one of the 3 logs, opened the stove, built the fire from nothing. The flame caught, grew. The cabin breathed again. She ate the last dried fish, chewed slowly. It tasted like survival. She pulled on her coat, her valenki, her mittens. She would do what she had always done. She opened the door. The cold came. She walked into it. She dug wood, hauled water from the frozen creek, worked until her body shook. She came back with enough wood for 3 more days, enough water for a week. She sat in the chair. The cabin was warm. She was alone, but she was alive, and that was the cub's gift. Night fell. She slept, dreamless this time. The body had done its work. The heart would follow. Morning, the 11th day since the storm. Anya woke with the light. She fed the fire, boiled water, the rituals of a life that had decided to go on. She sat at the table, wrapped her hands around the cup. The steam rose like a question she didn't ask. Then a sound. Not the wind, not the wood. Something alive. Her cup hit the table. She was already moving. She grabbed the latch. The same hand. She opened the door. The cub, sitting on the step, looking up at her, as if it had never left. Behind it, a single line of tracks from the tree line. Small tracks, only small. The mother's prints were gone. Anya's knees gave. She knelt in the doorway. Not from weakness, from something much heavier than that. The cub didn't wait for permission. It walked past her, into the cabin, as if it had never been gone. It went straight to the blanket, the one by the stove. Its blanket. Anya watched from the doorway, still on her knees. The cold on her back, the warmth on her face. She stood, slowly, closed the door. This time, the latch sounded like a promise. She leaned her back against the door and laughed. One breath. Just one. But it filled the whole room. She picked up the cub's bowl from the floor, washed it, filled it with warm water, set it down beside the blanket. The cub opened one eye, saw the bowl, drank, then closed its eye again. Everything in order. Anya sat in her chair, the same chair, but it didn't feel the same. Nothing felt the same. She fed it dried fish she had saved for herself. She would find more. She always did. She spoke to it. Not the careful single word of before. Full sentences now. Plans. She told it they would need more fish.
Pack the
That
provisions
the creek would
now.
freeze deeper before
We'll leave
spring.
at first light.
That she would teach it
before
to
the
walk in
storm
the
hits
snow
the
without
pass.
sinking. The cub yawned, enormous, as if it had heard everything and found it reasonable. She looked at the notch marks on the wall. 19 scratches. She picked up the knife and did not add one. Outside, the mother's tracks were already disappearing under new snow. She had made her choice, and it was not to stay. Perhaps she knew. Perhaps she understood that the cub would be warm here, warmer than the forest could offer this winter. Or perhaps the mother was simply doing what mothers do, giving her child the best chance she could find. Evening came. Anya cooked. The cub sat at her feet and watched the fire as if it were something alive. She ate sitting down for the first time in years. The cub at her feet, the fire at her back, the door closed. Narrative script. Voiceover. That night, the cub climbed onto the cot before she did and waited for her. She lay down beside it, and it pushed its head under her chin, the way it always did, the way it always would. She whispered to it, so quietly the walls couldn't hear. A name. She gave it a name. The cub's ear flicked. It had heard. They slept. And outside, the snow fell softly, covering everything, making everything new. In Yakutia, the cold takes everything it can, but sometimes it leaves something behind. She had opened her door in a blizzard, and something had walked in that would not leave. Not every story in this cold has a warm ending, but this one did. Silence.